What happened when I stood up to my mom? Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. Mom set down the form and whispered, "Real children don't say no." I sat at her kitchen table with its scratched surface, where we once counted change for school notebooks, and now she wanted me to donate part of my paycheck and add her as a co-owner on my account for her health's sake. I'm Naomi, 28, a city librarian. My job isn't loud, but it's vital. I teach people how to build resumes, help seniors find benefit forms, and fact-check for students who are a little shy with their teachers. If I sign, my credit, lease, and future are at risk. If I refuse, I risk losing family peace and the fragile illusion that my mother loves me without conditions. She slid me a pen, patted my wrist, and sighed. "I lost so many nights' sleep for you," she said. Her sacrifice story she retells every Christmas. Your sister would agree without questions. I breathe deeper. I'll sign only after we review with the bank and HR, and I get written clarity. Her smile thinned. "So you don't trust your own mother?" I looked out the window at the bedsheets drying on the line, surrender flags she always loved. I put the pen down. Not today. The air grew heavy, thunder gathering. She stood, lifted her phone, and photographed the blank signature line. "Then don't cry when the family learns what you've become," she said quietly. Family. In her mouth always meant 3 neighbors, an aunt from church, and a chat that boils when she hurts. My heart beat inside my palms. "I love you," I said, "but I won't sign blind risks." She opened the door wider, as if sweeping all my doubts out with me. "Fine," she said, "then you'll hear my truth with witnesses." And I already knew that the witnesses would be people whose stories she controlled. My childhood album is a collage of Mom's achievements. She organized charity fairs, sang in the church choir, was always first to bake pies for other people's kids, but at home she calculated every one of my mistakes like interest on a loan. "Your job is so small," she said last year. "Shelving little books isn't a life." I smiled then and went to check the catalog, my usual retreat into silence where facts don't raise their voices. Lately, the jokes cut deeper. At a family dinner, she loudly told everyone how Naomi handed out library fines again. What a hero. And everyone laughed except me and Maya. My sister, 3 years older, sighed to me in the kitchen, "Don't provoke her. When she's angry, the world folds around her pain." Maya and I drew invisible borders, quietly stepping away, quietly making tea, quietly dimming. But today's ultimatum was different. It smelled like blackmail wrapped in warmth. I went home and wrote myself a note. Never sign without reading the fine print. An hour later, a prayer request popped into the family chat. A photo of my form with the empty signature line, captioned, "Pray that pride won't destroy our nest." The sender was Mom. My chest tightened. I knew this script. First, public shame, then fundraisers for my salvation. I texted Maya, "Did you see?" Reply, "Deleted. I'll call tonight." Hold on. At my door stood Mr. Ortiz, our neighbor and Mom's old friend. He brought jam and looked longer than jam requires. "When people ask for a signature," he said, "they aren't always asking for trust. Sometimes it's power." I nodded. "I'll have proof," I promised myself, "before I have a signature." And a few minutes later, the bank called about unusual activity in my name. At first, I thought scammers. But the agent read my full name and addresses known only to family and the insurance office. "There's an application for a joint credit card with an e-signature," he said. "Do you confirm?" I stuck to the floor. "No, I do not." He recorded the refusal and told me to pull my credit report. I ended the call and opened my email. There, a note from my insurer. "Confirm changing your emergency contact to Helena R." I hadn't changed anything. I called Maya. "Listen," she said, "don't raise a storm. Mom will spin this into a child betrayed her mother. But check signatures." She sent me a template request to obtain electronic logs. I filled the form, cited suspected unauthorized submission, and turned off the lamp. Messages flashed from the family chat, emotions echoing like accompaniment without melody. Pride. Ingratitude. The daughter needs spiritual correction. Mr. Ortiz brought an old scrapbook of newspaper clippings. "Before you were born," he said, "Helena was always a master at organizing other people's decisions." He looked me straight in the eyes. You have a right to a door that locks from the inside. His simple words sounded like law. That night, I printed everything. The bank call note, the insurance change, the chat screenshot. In my notebook, I wrote 3 questions. Who submitted? When? From which device? I added a 4th. How will they call love what smells like a loan? At dawn, another email arrived. Your HR received a complaint about confidentiality violations and disrespect for family. Signed, Concerned Parishioner. I knew my mother's letter style the way I know her voice in the dark. And it was only the first crack in a wall I feared touching. At work, HR Manager Carter sat me in a small conference room. We received an anonymous note about your hostility to family values and misuse of patron data, she said. We have to check. I laid out the facts. No patron files leave the library, no work data at home, only a family conflict and letters that smell like blackmail. Do you have documentation? I handed over numbered, dated printouts. Her gaze softened. Keep an incident log. Who called, when, and what they asked. Be boringly precise. After work, I stopped by the church kitchen where Mom volunteers. She pulled me outside where the air smelled like dish soap. Why are you humiliating me? She asked. I'm not humiliating you. I refuse risky signatures. She sighed and lifted her phone. I wrote HR because you've lost your moral compass, she said, as if delivering a diagnosis. Return your attic keys, she added. I'll set aside your childhood things since you'll probably forget you had a family. Do you want keys or control? I asked. Her eyes narrowed. I want a daughter who remembers who raised her. Her remembers, always meant agrees. I stepped to the street and saw Mr. Ortiz under the sycamore. Take this, he said, handing me therapist Lane's contact. When love speaks blackmail, your ears need a translator. I went home with a plan. Bank tomorrow, credit bureaus tomorrow, HR, call logs today. One more item. Lockdown access, email, phone, accounts. But Mom moved first. A family values letter reached my landlord that night. Morning smelled like coffee and dry fear. My landlord replied neutrally, not our business. Pay on time, and we're fine. But the letter itself was a signal. I changed passwords, enabled 2-factor, and booked a meeting at the bank. Manager Patel listened closely and turned his monitor. Here's the joint account application, he said. The IP traces to your mother's home provider. A cold wave walked my spine. Signature is electronic, he added, but looks like a scanned image. Can we record my objection and disable all access except mine? I asked. Yes, he said. We'll open an incident and flag any joint requests. He printed a case number. Keep copies in 2 places. I filed one under a new label, Mom, because sometimes the truest labels are the simplest. At home, Maya waited for a call. She says you want to kick her out of your life, my sister said. I want to give my life back to me, I answered. What do I do? She asked. Be a witness to facts, I said. Not a party to gossip. That evening, therapist Lane reviewed my papers. Name things, she said. This is economic control fueled by shame. Your no is not betrayal, it's a boundary. She taught me 2 lines. I don't discuss rumors. I answer documents. And my help is possible only in writing and with limits. I wrote them down like a new alphabet. When I left her office, my phone buzzed from Mom. Last chance. Bring a pen, because tomorrow it will be public. And I felt that this publicly already had a place in time. Public turned out to be after Sunday service, in the hall of lemonade and plastic cups. Mom climbed the little stage, told a parable about children forgetting the hands that fed them, and thanked everyone supporting my medical bills. I froze. There were no official bills, none that I or Maya knew of. She held up a poster with a QR code. Help Helena heal. In the window, I saw my reflection, back straight, chin slightly raised, the posture of someone deciding not to hide. I walked up to her. Mom, I said evenly, let's announce a transparent budget. Who, when, and how much was paid. She smiled broad and festive. My daughter loves paperwork, she told the microphone. The room's laugh felt confused. I held up the bank's note about the joint account attempt. This is a fact. Explain? She leaned closer. You're killing me with shame, she whispered, just loud enough for the mic to catch. The hall went quiet, the second before amen. Mr. Ortiz stepped forward. Transparency isn't shame, Helena. Mom retreated a step, eyes flashing. Who gave you the right, Naomi? She asked. My name is on the forms, I said. And my life isn't your instrument. I turned to the room. If you want to help, ask for receipts and reports. A cup hit the floor. Mom inhaled, hid the microphone in her palm the way a blade slips into its sheath. That evening the insurer wrote, contact change request denied. Signature does not match. HR wrote, your incident log received. Review ongoing. And then a third that made me sit down, an invitation to mediation with Mom. Mediation took place in a small room with neutral art and a clock that ticked like a heart on power saver. In the center, recorder, 2 notepads, water. Between us, years sliced into you should, and I did for you. Between Mom, tears that knew where to fall to sound like truth. Between me, papers. The mediator read rules. No interrupting, state facts, suggest solutions. My request is simple, I said. No financial changes without my written consent. No letters to HR, landlord, or banks. Full accounting for help Helena heal, or stop the fundraisers. Mom dabbed her eyes. I'm ill, she said. I'm ashamed to ask. All the more reason for receipts, I answered. She pulled a folder. Inside, printouts of transfers, most labeled cash or envelopes of gratitude. No medical invoices. The mediator underlined. Documents are required. Mom sighed. People gave from the heart. Isn't a heart a document? I looked at Maya, who came as a witness this time. She said quietly, Mom, show at least one bill. Mom flared. You've joined against me. The mediator proposed a temporary agreement. Pause fundraisers pending audit. Block any contact changes. Set communication boundaries. I agreed. Mom said she would think. Then I placed on the table the logs. IP, date, time, my electronic application with a scanned signature. Mom's finger trembled. I just wanted guarantees, she said. The world is dangerous. Danger lies where no one checks. The mediator said, do you sign the temporary agreement today? Mom looked at me like I was a traitor to rescue from myself. She signed, and under the table gripped a phone already dialing a new plan. After mediation, Mom went quiet for a few days, and the town hushed too, as if waiting for a new notice on the supermarket bulletin board. I did what the library teaches. I organized knowledge. Pages fell into chronology, bank call, insurance email, HR note, heal, fundraisers, mediation. For each, proof, contacts, comments. Facts are stairs, Lane said. Shame is ice. I wanted stairs. Maya brought tea and news. Mom is gathering support in the church kitchen. She says you raised your hand against what's sacred. I nodded. Sacred is boundaries, I said. A knock. Mr. Ortiz with an envelope. Found this in my mailbox by mistake, he said. Inside, a letter to my employer with step-by-step instructions on protecting the community from a child who disrespects her mother. Signed, the community. Style my home. I sent formal notices. HR, about external pressure attempts. The bank, confirmation of blocks. The insurer, full event log. The mediator, breach of the agreement's spirit. Patel replied, all joint requests now hard flagged. Phrase password activated. Lane wrote back, you won't be punished for boundaries. You'll grow up inside them. That night, I heard whispering under my window. Mom's voice and the familiar bustle of aunties who can weave stories faster than I can type. They talked about guardianship over me as an act of love. I drew back the curtain and let myself feel anger, sadness, and a strange lightness. Then I turned on my desk lamp and titled a new page, Public Disclosure, if defamation continues. When I turned the light off, my phone lit with one more message from an unknown number, and every word in it was a blade. Tomorrow my mother planned to announce guardianship over me without my consent. The next morning, I walked into the bank with Patel's letter in hand. Guardianship requires court order, not rumor, he said firmly. He printed the statutes, highlighted in yellow, and slid them across the desk. Keep these. Facts don't need apologies. I tucked them into my folder labeled Mom. Then I went to HR, where Carter updated me. We've flagged her letters as harassment. If another arrives, it enters a legal channel. Her tone was calm, professional, like she was patching a leak before it flooded the whole building. Maya called later, voice shaking. She's telling people you've become unstable, that she has to protect you. I asked, do you believe that? Silence. Then, I believe she's scared of losing control. And I'm scared of losing both of you. I told her, be my witness, not my defender. Witnesses hold weight. Defenders get spun into villains. That night, I lined up the evidence on my dining table. Bank logs, HR reports, insurance emails, mediation notes. Each paper was a rung on a ladder out of quicksand. But every time I climbed one rung, Mom tried to pour more sand in. At 9 p.m., another text buzzed. Tomorrow the church will hear the truth. You won't be trusted again. I stared at it, my breath shallow. Then Mr. Ortiz knocked, holding a flashlight. I saw her talking to the deacon, he said. If she stands up tomorrow, bring your papers. Don't let stories shout louder than receipts. I nodded, pulse thudding in my ears. Because tomorrow wasn't just about her voice. It was about whether mine finally counted as real. Sunday service ended with the usual hymns, but instead of dismissal, Mom stepped forward. Sometimes children lose their way, she began. And as mothers, we must guide them back. People folded their arms, unsure where this was going. She pulled out a folder. I am petitioning for guardianship over my daughter Naomi. For her safety. Gasps spread like ripples. My legs trembled, but my folder felt heavier in my arms, weighted with facts. I stood. Guardianship requires evidence of incapacity, not disagreement, I said. My voice cracked, but carried. I placed Patel's statutes on the pulpit. Bank records show fraudulent applications in my name. HR logs show harassment emails traced to her IP. Insurance denied her forged signature. I set each paper down like laying bricks. Maya stood too, hand trembling. I witnessed Mom submit those forms, she said. Her voice broke, but she didn't sit down. The deacon looked between us, lost, and finally said, "This is beyond church. This is civil." Murmurs rose, loud and messy. Mom's face changed, sweetness evaporated, steel showing underneath. "They've poisoned you," she said to Maya. "They've turned my daughters against me." She pointed at me. "She's ungrateful, unstable, rebellious." I took a breath, looked at the crowd. "What would you do?" I asked. "If love demanded your credit." Silence answered. I packed my folder, turned to Maya. "It's time." We walked out together. And on the steps outside, a man handed me a sealed envelope stamped County Court. The court summons rattled in my bag as I drove home. Mediation hadn't ended the war. It had escalated it. The hearing date was in 2 weeks. Inside, the document listed her petition. Guardianship on grounds of impaired judgment and moral decline. I almost laughed at the absurdity, but the knot in my throat wouldn't let it out. I called Therapist Lane. "Document, document, document," she reminded me. "Show timelines. Show witnesses. Bring Maya. Bring Ortiz. You don't need anger. You need accuracy." So I built a binder, section tabs for bank, HR, insurance, landlord, church, mediation. Each tab thick with evidence. Maya came over, pale but determined. "I'll testify," she said. "But what if she disowns me?" I answered, "She already has, if silence is the price of her love." Maya's eyes filled, but she nodded. That night, Ortiz sat at my table, sipping tea. "I remember Helena before control became her fuel," he said. "She used to laugh without rehearsing. But fear grew inside her, and she watered it until it became power." He tapped my binder. "You don't fight fear with fear. You fight with facts." The day before court, another anonymous letter reached HR, this time claiming I stole library funds. Carter called me in. "We know it's her," she said. "The timestamps, the phrasing, it matches." She slid me copies for the binder. "You're covered." That night, I slept with the binder beside my bed like armor. And in my dream, Mom's voice called me guilty before I'd even spoken. The courthouse smelled like old wood and disinfectant. I sat at the respondent's table, binder open, hand steady only because I gripped the edge. Mom entered in a navy dress, looking fragile, clutching tissues. The judge asked for opening remarks. Mom's attorney began. "This is a mother desperate to save her unstable child." Heads nodded in the gallery. When my turn came, my voice shook, but words landed. "Your Honor, my mother isn't saving me. She's controlling me. Here is proof of unauthorized applications in my name." I handed over the bank report. "Here are logs of harassment emails traced to her home IP." I handed HR's packet. "Here are insurance denials rejecting her forged signature." Each section labeled, Dated, signed. The judge frowned. Mrs. Reynolds, do you contest these documents? Mom dabbed her eyes. My daughter hates me. I only wanted protection. Her voice was honey, but her hands trembled. Maya stood as a witness. I saw Mom fill out those forms, she said softly. I begged her not to. The courtroom buzzed. Ortiz spoke next. I've known Helena 40 years. She uses shame as leash. Naomi deserves freedom. The judge leaned forward. Guardianship requires incapacity. What I see here is capacity, with evidence of interference. Papers rustled. Petition denied. Mom gasped, then glared at me. You've ruined this family, she hissed, loud enough for everyone. The mask slipped. The room saw steel beneath the tears. And in that moment, victory felt like grief dressed in a borrowed suit. Fallout came quickly. The bank froze any joint activity with my name. HR launched a harassment review. Insurance flagged my account for fraud protection. My landlord, who'd received those letters, sent me a note. Don't worry. Lease renewed. Relief came, but so did a hollow ache. Mom retreated from me, but rallied her allies. Church whispers painted me as cold-hearted, legalistic, the daughter who sues her mother. Grocery aisles turned into silent trials. Neighbors glanced and turned away. Maya bore it too, snide comments about her betrayal. One night she cried on my couch. We lost our mother. I hugged her. We lost her illusion. Maybe now we find truth. At work, stress cracked me. I snapped at a patron, something I never do. Carter pulled me aside. You're carrying boulders, she said. Set some down. We've got your back. I nodded, but tears slid anyway. Lane reminded me. Healing starts when you separate love from control. You can grieve the mother you wanted, while still defending yourself from the mother you have. Her words hit deep. But even as systems shielded me, I felt the price. Exhaustion, loneliness, and the sting of being branded a traitor. Nights blurred into paperwork and long walks under streetlights, searching for a version of family that didn't wound. Then, one evening, an envelope arrived at my door. No return address, just my name in her handwriting. Inside the envelope was no apology. Instead, a single line. You will always need me. Under it, a photo of my childhood bedroom, stripped bare, boxes stacked, my old books gone. It was her way of saying she could still erase me. I sat on the floor, letter trembling in my hands. But I remembered Lane's words. Boundaries are not cruelty. They are survival. I called Maya. We're setting rules, I said. Together we drafted a document. No shared finances, no access to my accounts, no letters to employers or landlords, no fundraisers without receipts. We both signed, notarized it with Patel, and sent her a copy. She didn't reply, but the silence felt different, defeated, cornered. Still, I knew silence could be camouflage. So I locked my accounts further, placed fraud alerts, and met with Lane weekly. We practiced saying, I'll help when it's safe and documented. At family gatherings, I no longer went alone. Ortiz came, Maya by my side. If Mom tried to corner me, I repeated the script. I don't answer rumors. I answer documents. Over and over, until even gossip grew tired. Slowly, the storm lessened. My chest eased. I could breathe without flinching at every notification. Healing was boring, therapy, walks, cooking, paperwork, but boring was safety. And boring was freedom. One night, Maya looked at me and said, for the first time, I believe we'll be okay. And that was when my phone buzzed with a message that shook me again. The message was from an unknown number. Families forgive quiet mistakes, but never public betrayal. I stared at it, pulse racing. Maybe it was her. Maybe it was one of her allies. But this time, I didn't delete it in fear. I filed it into my binder, labeled threats, and wrote the date. Facts, not panic. I walked outside, stars sharp above. For years I thought love meant obedience. I thought sacrifice was proof of loyalty. But love without respect is control. And sacrifice without choice is theft. Now, boundaries protect me. My help is conditional, my life my own. I'll grieve the mother I wished for, but I won't surrender to the mother who weaponized shame. Maya and I plant new rituals, Sunday dinners without guilt, birthdays without drama, laughter that doesn't fear eavesdropping. Ortiz brings jam and tells stories of our town before fear ruled kitchens. Lane reminds me healing is slow, but steady. If you're watching, and your parent or partner confuses control with care, Learn from me. Keep receipts. Keep names. Keep boundaries. Write them down. Notarize them if you must. And remember, saying no is not betrayal, it's self-respect. I saved the letter, then shredded it. I'm not holding threats anymore. I'm holding my life. And tomorrow, I'll walk into the library knowing my voice finally counts.